Alright, this is going to be an update and forecast on the wildfires going on in Northern California. I just wanted to start out with the satellite imagery because I think this just perfectly sums up the situation California is in right now. We have moisture moving in from Tropical Cyclone Hilary. Right now it's a Hurricane 2, and then that is going to be pushing into Southern California tomorrow, having some widespread and pretty significant impacts, especially for Southern California into the Sierra. And then up in Northern California, you can see some of the thunderstorms that popped up today and some of the wildfire smoke and activity that we are seeing, especially as we got into this afternoon. So we'll just go into the wildfires. I already did an update and forecast on Hurricane Hilary earlier this morning, and then I'm most likely going to be covering that all day long tomorrow. So in this video, we're just going to be focusing on wildfires, but then at the end, we will see how the hurricane, which will then turn into a tropical storm by the time it moves into California, how that will interact with our wildfires. And it could actually be some good news there once we look at the rainfall. So first, let's just start off with the largest fire that we have, or it's technically a combination of fires. This is the SRF Smith River Complex. Where you see the red is where we had a bit more of the heat coming off of this fire recently. And then acreage, 20,554, 0% containment. And it does look like there's still a large number of evacuation warnings and orders in place on that one. Now let's go over to the east, to the head fire. That one looks to be, let's see if this is going to load. If it doesn't, we know how large this one is. It's about 4,000 acres, and that one is at 0% containment as well. You can see where some of the heat is on that, and we'll look at another map in a moment that shows more even up-to-date heat signatures getting picked up by the satellites. And let's see if this one wants to load. Nope, doesn't look like it. Hopefully all the other links are good throughout the course of this video. That one's 3,000 acres though. That's the deep fire, and that's at 0% containment as well. So let's see if this website works a little bit better for us. The Smith River Complex. As I mentioned, it's a combination of lots of different fires. So we have the Holiday Fire, which is around 7,000 acres. Diamond Fire, 430. Kelly Fire, which is 12,000. And then Hurdy-Gurdy, kind of a funny name there, which is over 750. And then we have the Happy Camp Complex. The biggest one there is the Head Fire. That one's over 4,500 acres. So that's actually a more updated number than the one we were just looking at. 0% containment. And then Canyon Fire looks to be the next biggest at 788. Plant Fire, that's one we haven't looked at yet. That one's around 5,465 acres. And Deep Fire, we've covered this in previous videos, 3,014 acres, 0% containment. And we did have pretty decent amount of smoke coming off of these fires throughout the day today, so we do have some unhealthy air quality, especially in Northern California, directly above the Smith River Complex and the Head Fire. Now let's actually see where we're picking up some heat at the moment. So where you'll see the most recent heat activity is going to be with the yellow squares that you see right there and where you see the reddish stars. And keep in mind that where you see the yellow squares, that doesn't mean that's how far the fire has moved at this point. It's just a rough estimate, and it's the best heat data that we have to go off of as of right now. So it looks like on the northern edge of the Holiday Fire and the southwestern edge of the Kelly Fire was where we had pretty decent amount of activity today, and then maybe northern edge of the Doe Fire is showing some heat signatures at the moment as well. Now on the Head Fire, right now it's only showing a small heat signature, but keep in mind we did have some pretty significant thunderstorm activity, or at least some clouds up there throughout the day today, and that can occasionally interfere with the satellites being able to pick up the heat. So this is just the best information we have to go off of right now, but it's definitely not perfect. And then if we scroll farther down, that's where we were going to see the Deep Fire, and that one looks like we are picking up some heat on the northern side of that fire. I will say it's good to see that we're not seeing any bright red or widespread red squares, which shows the more recent and kind of more active fire behavior. But again, that could just be because the satellites are being blocked by the clouds a bit. So With that, that kind of updates our numbers and where we are standing on those fires. But now let's look at the red flag warning, because this is maybe where some of the good news comes in. You can see this red flag warning that was covering a large number of our fires. It was in effect throughout the day today because of scattered thunderstorms with abundant lightning on dry fuels, and then some of the outflow winds that lead to some fire growth. Now that red flag expires at 8 p.m. tonight, so should be expiring in about 15 minutes. Now, they have in the past had this red flag expire and then pop up again the next day, so we're certainly going to keep a close eye on it, but we are going to see some pretty significant changes in our weather forecast moving forward. So I want to just focus on that. And it really comes down to Hurricane Hilary. So right now, the winds actually just dropped down in the course of me talking in this video. It looks like they're now at 90 miles per hour. And let's see, 90 miles per hour. One sec, I'm going to check what category hurricane that makes it. Yeah, that's what I thought. So my one screen was showing it still as a category 2, but 90 miles per hour is a category 1 hurricane. So this storm is decreasing in intensity, and it's decreasing because it's moving over cooler water as it moves up Baja California. And then as part of it pushes over land, that also helps it to decrease in intensity, because the hurricanes like warm water. That's their fuel source. So as you go into cooler water and as you go over to land, the hurricane kind of falls apart a little bit. And we are seeing that on some of the imagery out there. Now looking at this, that's going to be Sunday at 2 p.m. So tomorrow afternoon is when the low looks like it's directly off of San Diego. And then it's going to be moving up into California, bringing very gusty winds with it. But what we're interested in this video is the impacts that it's going to have on wildfire activity. So let's just look at thunderstorm potential tomorrow. Not showing as much as in previous days. What about some thunder? Maybe have some showing up in the Sierra, but not as much in Northern California, although you do see a few flashes up there. So I'm still going to keep chance for some thunderstorms in the forecast. Now what I think will be very interesting to watch is how much rainfall we get and where we end up getting rainfall. So looks like there's already rain moving in from the moisture from Hurricane Hilary into much of southern and eastern California right there. So that's already leading to some rain. I'm interested to see when it's going to move up into northern California, because that will have some hopefully beneficial impacts on our wildfires. So tomorrow afternoon looks like it's still mostly over SoCal. That's some very heavy rainfall. Again, if you haven't watched my Hurricane Hilary video, there's going to be some significant flash flooding down there with some gusty winds as well. First tropical storm warning in the history of California over San Diego and other parts of Southern California. But here's where you start to see some of that rain showing up in Northern California and spreading out all the way into Monday, and then maybe even a few lingering showers out there into Tuesday. But you notice where you see the yellow to orange, that's your very heavy rain. By the time it gets to NorCal, that's just some of the leftover moisture. The storm is weakened, so that's going to be your more light to moderate rain, but maybe enough to really help us out with some of our fire activity that we have going on up there. So I'm just going to click through here. This is the GFS model, so the American forecast model. And where you see that purple, that looks like it's pretty close to where we have the head fire and some of our complex wildfires up in Northern California. So that purple would be more than an inch of rainfall. And then where you have the green to the bluish color, that's going to be maybe a quarter of an inch up to an inch of rainfall. So if that ends up coming true, this could really help us out with our wildfire activity, not only with the fires that are going on right now, but throughout the rest of the fire season, because that's a decent amount of rain to be getting in the middle of August. And that's going to bring some moisture back into our fuels. But clearly, the problematic rainfall is down in Southern California, stretching up into the Sierra. In some places, they'll be picking up as much rain in a day as what they typically see in an entire year. So we'll certainly be keeping a close eye on that. Now, I did want to show the risk of flash flooding because it does actually go into Northern California. At least it's a marginal 5% chance there with the green, where you see the high chance of flash flooding, at least a 70% chance, is stretching from Southern California up into the Southern Sierra. So definitely going to be watching that tomorrow. But again, this rainfall may have some good impacts on our wildfire activity. While it has some, I usually don't like to use the word catastrophic, but it could be some potentially catastrophic conditions down in Southern California with flash flooding, landslides, and debris flows. So just wanted to show the track with this one more time. It's a Hurricane 1 as of right now, just dropped down to 90 miles per hour. It's going to be a tropical storm by the time it moves into Southern California, and then it continues to weaken as it moves in over land, but then some of that moisture is going to be finding its way into Northern California, and it looks like that's going to drop some rain on our wildfires. But again, the big story tomorrow is going to be Hurricane Hilary, although tomorrow it'll most likely be Tropical Storm Hilary. So if you want to stay tuned on what's going to happen there, I'll probably be live most of the day tomorrow. So hope everybody in SoCal is staying safe, and let's hope some of this rainfall helps us out with our wildfire conditions, not only right now, but throughout the rest of this season. So hope this video was helpful, and thanks for watching.